We're going to get started. I am Brady. I'm with Partner Success with LiveRes. I worked for a property management company in San Diego for about 6 years using LiveRes. So was involved in owner relations for that time. And I am going to let our panelists introduce themselves. We've got a little bit of everything on here. So Pat, I'll start with you.
Hello, Patrick Tice with VacAZ from Scottsdale, Arizona. We service Phoenix, Scottsdale, Sedona, and Flagstaff. We really cater to the more luxury, high-end, affluent traveler. Been in the business since about 2017.
And how many properties do you manage?
We currently have 50 properties that we manage.
Okay. And just a side note, I chose Pat for this panel because he manages my parents' home, so I know that he does a good job.
Thank you. They have a great home.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, right.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Me?
No.
Oh, I'm going to go next. I'm Andrew Bate, founder and CEO of Safely.com. This is my colleague Louis King right here. Why is there an insurance person on a homeowner program? It's because we protect the homeowner's home. So we cover up to $1 million of damage to the home structure, its contents, and bodily injury. We cover the homeowner, the property manager, and the guest in this policy. And we screen for guests. So we have a database of bad guests, people who shouldn't stay again ever. And we check sex offender lists, verify identity, and we just holistically protect your homeowners' homes.
Ben?
I'm Ben Alec. I'm from Q4 Launch. I'm the senior digital marketing specialist there, so I manage our marketing team. Q4 Launch is an inbound marketing company, so we manage more on the guest or traveler side, but know that owner acquisition is important, so we shift some of our strategy for that as well, exposing you and getting leads through the website for you.
I like what you did with your jeans. I think I'm going to do that too.
It's a very neat triple roll trick.
Oh, and you have to see some leg. Okay, cool.
You have to have a little ankle.
Yeah,
little
I got
ankle.
that. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm Tyler Hurst, and I'm a vacation rental consultant. I'm here in Boise. I used to be a VP at LiveRes and for 10 years or so. And now I do consulting, a lot of owner acquisition stuff, a lot of rev management stuff, and just love the industry. Don't ever want to leave. Can't kick me out.
So we're going to kind of walk through the process from recruitment to acquisition, onboarding, retention, and then pruning, which I am a big fan of. But I think, Ben, I'd like to start with you. I think that you have some good insights around, one, like how should your website cater to the homeowner, to a potential homeowner?
Yeah, I think even at the very beginning, before you start targeting those homeowners, they're going to come to your website and pretend like they're the guest. How can I find my home on your website? When they're searching vacation rental specific terms in your area you're catering or marketing to, are you showing up in those first search results? Like, can they easily find your website? In turn, they're going to be able to find homes they can book and knowing confidently that you're catering to those travelers who are going to be booking. So that's a really big way, is having that SEO value behind your website already to build that base as well. A lot of our clients will spend on Google ads or Bing ads. Both are really effective for driving that traffic and performance, and those owners are also going to see that too. Are you advertising on channels where travelers are going to be? Making sure when the owner gets there, they're done with their traveler journey in a way. They want to know, do you have a dedicated landing page saying why you are valuable? What is your proposition? Are you showing that to them? Are you laying that out easily for them to know your commission rates are lower than your competitors? That's a great advantage to tell those potential homeowners on your website what that is. Offering some type of lead tool, a free property assessment that they can have, putting their address in and your team providing that to them. A design consultation if they do decide to go with you. What does that look like? Signing up for those services, they're going to help them be competitive in driving that investment property revenue as well. So really thinking about the guest as a traveler at the beginning. what can your company offer them that's different from everybody else, and how can you set them up for success when they choose you?
And Ben, for property managers that you guys have done a lot of that build out around marketing to the homeowner, do you see anything interesting in the analytics?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when we're looking at that specific landing page. So we have a client that launched one of our owner acquisition marketing tools, which is just a lead generation platform. And within their analytics, they saw 16 to 20 new leads within the first month. They're catering to those specific travelers really well. They've put a lot of effort into their vacation side, which is helping them bring in really valuable leads for their property management side too.
Cool. And I know, Pat, you guys have done quite a bit with your website for homeowners. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so when we started, we took a homeowner investor-centric approach to it. So we really wanted to cater to the owners and investors and what they could get out of this business. So, again, I agree with Ben where, it has to be both. We really have two clients in this business. We have the guest and we have the owner. So we took an approach that, would tie in both because the owners are looking at what the guest experience would be. But it even starts before that with, we call it assets of the photography that we take, the video we take, the way we design our homes is through a professional designer. We require that. So it's, quite a process when you see our website and the homes they have. It speaks for itself. And so that really draws the owners in and it also draws the guests in. So it's worked well. We get about 80 to 100 leads a month. And so we turn down quite a bit of business. We're looking for a specific home and we're looking also for a specific business-minded owner. And so our website caters to that individual.
And we'll get there a little bit, but can you talk about who you turn down, who you're getting but you're turning down?
Yeah, so we only take homes that are valued at $2 million or more. So anything that comes in lower than that, I mean, if it's 1.8 and it's a fantastic place, obviously would take something like that. But it's not just the home, but it's also the owner. I mean, the owner has to be business-minded. They have to be okay with us taking over complete control of it. So we don't allow them to have any real say in the whole process, whether it be design. We tell them what it's going to cost up front. We're really on point with our budgets. And they're okay with that. I mean, these people are high net worth people. They don't have the time to do it. They don't want to do it, which is why they're paying us. We charge a setup fee of $10,000. And so obviously we have to perform, for them. So it takes a lot of work. Everybody wants it done by tomorrow. And so we get it done probably 30 to 45 days, depending on how big the house is. We did get a home that was almost 9,000 square feet on the market in 7 days, completely unfurnished. So it took a lot of coordination, but there was some incentive to do that. Mm-hmm. There was some monetary incentive for us to get it on the market. So the team accomplished that, and we now know we can do it.
Coming back to the marketing a little bit, Andrew, can you talk a little bit about what homeowners want to hear, what you guys find homeowners want to hear when it comes to protecting that asset?
Yeah, and I also want to talk about another segment, and it's about 20 to 30 million homes, second homes that people own and they don't rent in Europe and in the US. And that's where we really focus, is people who are thinking, well, all my friends are making all this money, I probably should do that too. But I don't want internet strangers sleeping in my bed and being in my space. And so we find that homeowners, the first thing you have to convince them of is that this is an okay process. That they're making tens of thousands of dollars from renting their home, but they're not putting millions at risk, their 401k, the value of this home, and all their other assets, because there is liability when you run a hospitality company. And so for us, where we really help with the marketing is that, well, you're going to be covered. There's $1 million backing you up. The guest is paying for this. And they have to get over that hump that the right guests are coming into their house because they want to retire there, or this is a big part of their family's future. And you've got to convince them that you care and that that's number one. Then you can get into the ROI, because that's really important too. But you got to get them over feeling comfortable. And especially the older they are, the less comfortable they are with this newfangled sharing economy. The younger people are loving it, and for the first time, they're buying homes like none other. But how do you convince them that you're the ones who are going to care for their family's future? And you get that done, then you talk about ROI, revenue management, the right furniture, all that. But we find that has to come first.
I'm curious from any or all of you where you're seeing ads, like marketing budget spent toward homeowners. What channels, what keywords, like where are you spending for the owner part?
Well, I guess I'll go. We spend, obviously, Google AdWords is where most of our spend is Google AdWords. That's what we did early on, continue to do that. We spend probably $5,000 a month on Google AdWords, and then, that also helped with SEO. So with the SEO, it takes much longer, probably 6 months to a year. But now that it's rolling, we're always the first in search results for Scottsdale Vacation Rentals, Phoenix Vacation Rentals, Airbnb Rentals in Scottsdale. So the retargeting ads also help with, whether they're on the internet or social media, they're going to get retargeted time and time again. And so we constantly see that, and we refine who we're looking for too. So, a lot of AI is used in our technology, so we can see who that person was, and we tell, the internet to crawl and go look for more of these people. And so, we have more, like I said, more leads than we can handle. So it's worked really well. I would recommend Google AdWords, even though it's expensive, it does work.
Yeah, especially with the budget you have, that's a great one. Usually homeowner or property management or real estate specific terms are a lot more expensive from a cost per click standpoint. So if your budget is really small or a little bit smaller than $5,000 a month in that case, focusing about 20 to 30% of your current ad spend on that is a good place to start to try to gain some traction as you're gaining SEO value from the optimizations that you're doing on your website. Kind of having those work together in that as well. And again, property management focused keywords are a great way to kind of start and have that as well. Knowing also that the owner is going to come through specific vacation rental terms as well.
Well, I think that makes a really good point, though. That one of the things, when an owner's shopping, one of the things they look at it for, and you kind of hinted about this earlier. I feel like I've been talking about owner acquisition all day, so it must be important, right? Maybe right. I don't know. But one of the things that I feel is that people, when they're shopping their home, they want to make sure that you have a robust marketing strategy, and they don't want to hear about it; they want to see it. Mm-hmm. And when they see that robust marketing strategy, right? And sometimes you have to explain that. I have a property manager who served 300,000 guests, and we have an email list of 160,000 or whatever, right? And so whatever you tell them, I think that telling them is great, but showing them, and if they're finding you independently, and they feel like you're robust, that you're spending money to promote their homes, I think that's one of the things. Because even if they feel like they're going to take care of your home, which hopefully you are, I think they want to know that you have the ability to actually put heads in beds.
Yeah, and making sure you're providing, whether you use an internal marketing team or a third-party company, making sure they're providing you really extensive reporting that you could share with those homeowners, right? If they're asking about it, they want to know what you're doing, making sure you have that available readily to talk to what those services are and how people are finding them and you online.
I also, before we move away from marketing, are there any other I know some people do postcards. Is there anything that you've seen that's been effective that was surprising or, that you spent on that wasn't online but brought you a referral or anything like that?
Well, I'm going to take this one if I could for a minute. I mean, obviously there's sources. We just talked about this in our last class, but honestly, there's controlled sources that you can also look at. Realtor Relationships seem to be a really hot item, and you kind of just have to look at the realtors who are invested in there's realtors who are specific in your markets who are specific vacation property realtors only, right? Because they know there's a high income, there's good commission. And so I think working with those guys, and I have a pile of ideas on how to really create those relationships with those realtors. It's not just creating it, but how do you do it? What do you give them? Whether it's commission plan, some people, you just have to find what they're looking for. Maybe it's taking them to dinner every week. I don't know. But there is ways to get to realtors and make them feel they're comfortable with you. One company that I worked with here in the West is we did some of you guys know Sharon Clark. We worked on this project together, and one of the things we did is we secret shopped the realtors. It was a smaller market, and we secret shopped the realtors to see who they were referring. I said, hey, we have a vacation rental we're buying, and here's it as an MLS. If we were going to do this, who would you recommend for a property manager? And just see where we needed to go do work and see how they felt about us. And that was really, really helpful. It only took just a minute to do, but the feedback that we got changed everything for us. So again, realtor relationships, to answer your question, realtor relationships seems to be paramount, and it's something I probably didn't realize as early as I should have. But then also, a mail postcard campaign, kind of keeping them. One of the things I'm a big believer in is top of mind marketing, where what happens is you may not go get them. Sometimes we want to be hunters, right? Where we want to go out, get something, and eat it that night, right? Well, this is not that, right? We've got to create a relationship. So the first time they want to put their home on the market, or they want to switch from their current manager in highly competitive areas, right? And there is some where you might have two houses sitting next to each other in a neighborhood, and they're managed by different people. Well, those are the things where you can send out postcards and just keep driving the narrative of what makes you different or better. And then once they decide they want to change, they automatically come to you first and look at you.
Speaking of realtors, Pat, I believe you guys handle that in-house, correct?
We do, yeah. We're brokers as well, so we handle the sales for vacation rental, purchases and listings, on our own. So that's what we do.
And how have you integrated the two? Like, what does that flow look like?
So, we want to take them from inception, all the way through launch. And so that's what, we will do. So we'll take them on as a real estate client first, find them the right property, tell them what it's going to do as far as performance, do a full-blown assessment of the home, whether it needs, certain updates, the furnishing costs, the houseware costs. And then we'll also get into a specific financial performa that we do for them to tell them what the ROI potential would be, first year, second year, third year. And then, we search for the home, and obviously we got to choose quickly because the market's really hot. So we find the right one, and then we get it launched from there.
Moving on to the sales acquisition part of it, what's your presentation? How are you putting together pro formas? Tyler, Pat, either one of you.
I'll go.
Sorry.
Well, like I said, we do do performas, on the property. As far as the process that we follow, we'll go out and assess the property, meet the owner, see if there's a match there. We're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing us. So we'll decide at that meeting whether this is something we want to move forward with. If the house works, that's great. And then we got to ask ourselves, does the owner work? Are they business-minded? Do they have the cash flow and the cash available to fix certain things and do certain improvements that would be necessary? Are they not going to micromanage? Are they going to leave us alone? We just have that business intuition to tell us whether that's going to work or not.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it works out. If it doesn't, we have to part ways with them, but we really don't want to do that because it takes a lot of time to get these things launched, and then, to kind of unravel it's a mess as well. So the presentation would be meeting and then go back to the office a couple days later, follow up with some paperwork in the form of a performa and any improvements they need. Send them a management agreement and have a further discussion after that.
Cool.
I'm a little softer than that, and that's not to be offensive. I'm a little softer than that, where I feel like the first part of the relationship, and I'm sure you do this, so this is not meant to evaluate what you just said, because I think you're smarter than me. But ultimately, then again, everyone is. So ultimately, I think part of the question is, I feel like you have to have a deep understanding of each other. And I think that comes with expectation management, because we have to actually apply these principles. All day today, we've just talked about all those great wonders things that we're going to do when we get home. And then we go home and, it kind of falls on deaf ears, and you're like, I don't have time to attack that right now. I think one of the things that you've got to do is you've got to be able, I think you're right about, we've got to filter owners really quickly. Sometimes you're in a position where you can't. You're too small, owners are air, you need vacation homes. And maybe down the road you can start filtering a little bit, right? Hopefully you get to a position where VacAZ is, where they are just writing their own card and printing money, right? And they're doing a really good job of it, trust me. And they should be commended for it, because they put themselves in a position where they can push owners out, or they can make decisions based on what's best for the company, not necessarily what brings in revenue. Now, with that said, though, I also think that part of it is, number one, understanding the expectations, but building a relationship with that person, understanding what it is that they are looking for in the home. And so then you kind of have to cater toward that. Obviously, there's the investor type, right, where they are business-minded. They have KPIs they're going to hammer you, and if you're not hitting the KPIs, but they'll generally leave you alone. And then you have the traditional family-type owner, where it comes down to understanding what they want. They want to come and book it on Christmas, or they want to come down every once in a while, or they want to let their brothers, uncles, mothers, children have it. and that works out too. But I think I think it comes down to really understanding what the owner wants and seeing if it fits into the profile that you're looking for. Once you do that, when it comes to actual presentation, I think that, presenting where your highlights are, understanding. I wrote a white paper once for homeowners that I send to them after we talk and chat and understand their expectations. Generally, what I do is I send a white paper out that has just pages of things that we do, the 70 things that we'll do to manage your home. And I titled it, when we said everything, we meant everything, and literally listed out everything they could ever think about, and a paragraph about every single thing, so they felt like we were thinking about things they hadn't even considered, right? Who goes and looks for a vacation rental property manager and then thinks, oh yeah, who's going to change the damn air filter every 3 months, right? Well, that's something you have to worry about, and they didn't even think about it. And so you look a little bit smarter when you present that you've holistically figured out how to deal with their home, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Does anyone agree with me? Okay, good. I just want to make sure I'm not completely off base. So.
Yeah, and along those lines, we're seeing homeowners are so much more sophisticated about the property management process. They're coming and asking, well, what about beyond pricing? What about rented.com? What about these? And you've got to know, just like you were talking about, you have to know the marketing stack, and you have to prove that you can do it, because any property manager can say the same thing before a homeowner joins. But this level of sophistication is so much more now than ever before. And just proving that you know the tech stack, you know the industry, and you know things that they wouldn't have figured out on their own, whether it's changing the filter or doing the right AdWords or whatever it is. But yeah,
Well,
you've got to stay one ahead.
I'm going to agree with you on this one. I actually think that the narrative has to be that you have these technologies and you understand, and that the industry used to be, how did you do pricing? You kind of looked at some data, maybe downloaded a spreadsheet, looked at your competitors, checked out Airbnb and VRBO. That's going to happen now.
Right.
I'm patenting that
Called
shit,
it.
okay?
5 years from now, you can get the royalties for that.
I am, yeah. I'm going to call him right now. So, but you couldn't get a hold of him if you wanted to, so it doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about, yeah. I don't even think you have email anymore, right? Remember when they went down last year during COVID? Yeah. So anyways, I think that, I know what's up. But here's the thing. Ultimately, I think that they want to know that, look, a lot of owners, I will disagree with this, is I feel like a lot of owners are kind of bumpkinish sometimes, and they don't understand, or they don't know the technology is out there sometimes, right? And it all depends on markets and neighborhoods. But I think that you start showing them that you're making decisions not based upon intuition or what you think, but it's based upon data. And when they see that you're going to make pricing, length of stay, ADR type decisions, those are based upon data. And you show them how the pricing tools can work, and how you work and look at market sphere, and how you look at seasonality. I think that they start feeling very comfortable, because they're saying, hey, look, I don't really know you, but I'm going to trust that you're making the right decisions. Well, now we have data to prove that we're going to make the right decisions.
And that's a great point. I do agree. The data is super important, and we use that.
And showing them that you have it.
Every presentation, yeah, you got to have the data, and it makes them feel more comfortable, because it's historical data that they can look at and say, okay, my home's near this one, and this is probably what it's likely to do. So that does make them comfortable. The other thing we do that owners have told us is one of the best part of the presentation is we take them to one of our existing homes that's guest ready, and we'll show them how we set it up, everything we do. So they get a real sense of what their home's going to look like by showing them somebody else's home.
And those are great competitive advantages as you're thinking about different ways, as you're having that conversation after getting that lead. That's going to help move them across the finish line with choosing you versus maybe a competitor.
Agreed.
And I do.
Brady, there's a question in the back.
Oh, sorry, I'm not even. Yeah.
I really don't have a question. I just have something that I did for owner acquisition that was a little bit different.
Yeah.
I actually partnered with my Chamber of Commerce, and I did a seminar to the VRB owners that are already on VRBO to tell them how to better their rental property. And then when I went through several aspects of that, I think I had 50 the first time. I maybe gained 5 properties from that, because those owners said, I can't do all of that, and they came to me. So
They do think they can do all that at first, though.
Right.
They're better than us. Trust me. They're better.
They know way more than we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What laws? They don't have to pay taxes, do they?
Yeah.
Business permit? Pfft, yeah, right.
Generally, I don't love highlighting a specific product in a panel like this, but I do think guest verification is like top of mind for a lot of people. So, Andrew, can you tell us like how are you verifying? What are you checking? Like how? Because I think it's one thing to tell homeowners like, yeah, we're calling your guests, but to know when you're looking at IDs, like what are you guys actually offering?
Yeah, and it's really important because that is the question: who's going to stay in my house? And then you hear all these stories, and the stories. Well, first of all, let me tell you some data because we file every insurance claim, so we know the losses. But about 3% of our reservations have some sort of insurance claim, but only 1% of total reservations, so a third of our claims, are due to bad guests, like negligence. And of course, every market's different. You also know you have a few party homes, and like that's where all of it happens, and then no one does bad things in your other homes. But just to like level set it, it's a problem, but it's not a massive, massive problem. But what we do with our guest screening is we verify the guest identity, and that does a few things. And we can scan their driver's license, or we just match their name, address, and date of birth with some databases, so we know that they are likely who they say they are. It's always a balance of adding friction to the booking flow versus getting perfect data. And so we work with everyone to get the right mix. But once a reservation's confirmed, we kick out a virtual check-in process where the guest does show their ID or give us their name, address, and date of birth. But those are really the three fields we need. Then we're checking for felonies, so only the worst crimes. We check sex offender lists because that's the one that matters the most to homeowners. They don't think of it, but then if you ask them, how do you feel about sex offenders in your house? They all say no. Okay, maybe with some felons, but definitely not sex offenders, and that's fine. You wanna help them out there.
So like burglars are cool.
It depends.
Okay,
I mean,
just checking.
yeah,
I'm
it
joking,
really
I'm
depends.
joking.
And of course, everyone's had a few indiscretions in their past, so there's some sympathy to little crimes. So we make it very clear. We're only checking for felonies. These are the worst crimes. These are absolutely the people you want to keep out of the house, if that's how you want to run your business. And then the last piece is with all of our property managers, we've been collecting a database of bad guests. And these are the people who have destroyed homes. They shouldn't rent again. They broke the rules. They snuck a dog in. They're smoking, things like that. And we help you turn the guest down in a way that conforms with the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Housing Act. So there are legal ways of doing it. People who destroy your house are not a protected class. So we can turn them down if you want, and that's legal. And so we help with that process. And so that's a screening. But then what we found is there's actually a more predictive way of finding bad guests. So because we've insured over 1 million nights and we've done that guest screening, we actually learn about the guest and some characteristics about the guest. But we also are insuring the same homes over and over. And then we're seeing the reservation data, so like length of stay, advanced booking window, what booking channel, you know the worst booking channel, and most of you probably don't have booking.com turned on, but that is the worst booking channel. And so looking at all that data and then tying it to those negligent stays, the 1% of negligent stays. And so what we're launching next year is a risk score. So it's actually going to be more predictive about how risky is this reservation based on those three characteristics versus someone's historical indiscretions, which are relevant, but actually they're, you've seen enough reservations. There are ways of predicting these high-risk guests ahead of time.
On that topic, like moving into the onboarding process, Pat, how are you guys meeting, or what's your onboarding process look like when it comes to setting expectations that you know you're going to be able to meet?
I mean, that all depends on what we have currently to launch. We've gone through periods of time where there's 10 homes that we need to launch, kind of at all the same time. So, it's just communication with the owner and staying in contact with them. Setting the right expectations with them is really important, as y'all know. And also, many times try and find homes if it's a purchase that's already furnished to some degree, and then just need some minor tweaks to it here and there. So those would be, much faster. We obviously want to get homes on the market as quickly as we can for the owner and also our income. So everybody in our organization has a responsibility, whether it be, setting up the licensing, meeting with the designer, getting the bids, getting owner approvals, sending them house manuals, labeling the house, doing all that. So everybody knows what their responsibility is and when they need to come in and do that. And many times it overlaps, which is okay. But the biggest thing is getting the furnished, items in the home, the big items. And then from there, the other stuff follows. And then we have it photo ready, perfect. And then we bring the photographer in. We iron, all of our duvets. I mean, we have super white duvets and they're all super fresh because those photos are going to last a long time. So that's your product that you're showing. So, I mean, many times than not, we will delay a photo shoot because it's not quite perfect. And we do want it perfect. So anyway, we get it perfect. And then, about 10 days later, it's live. So I would say our launch time is 30 to 45 days in most circumstances.
And I know when it comes to, like, for you guys, you dealt with some bad guests during COVID. What does that look like for you with homeowners? What's your communication around that?
Yeah, so, I mean, we have them sign a guest licensing agreement. Obviously, we reach out to the guest. We also profile the guests every Monday. We'll go through all of our guests that are coming in for this week, and we'll say, okay, which ones, we all know, which ones are likely to be problematic. And so, we'll call those. Everybody on the staff will know which homes are the problematic ones for this week. We have cameras in all the homes. Some of them have cameras all around the property, including the backyard. Those are usually the really super high-end ones where you just don't, want things to happen. And then obviously keeping an eye on those. We use all the noise meters and things like that, but things still escape from us. We had recently somebody bring in a helicopter to the property, and there's other homes around it. So that's obviously a problem that you don't foresee coming.
Doesn't really sound like a problem. But
That's a good
Yeah,
problem
well,
to have.
yeah, that's a good
I got the call
problem.
from the,
Probably afford
from the
one of
neighbors.
those
Yeah.
to do, yeah.
Definitely can.
Probably
Yeah,
fix that.
so, it's difficult, but, we try and, obviously charge them for damages that may happen. Depends on the channel they're going through. Airbnb is really difficult, become more difficult to get, payouts from. Seems like they let guests do whatever they want. So, but, I can say that most of our guests, because our price point is so high, that, it's the affluent traveler that usually isn't causing problems.
Mm-hmm.
But it does happen. So, we'll deal with it case by case.
What about you, Tyler? You're on a phone.
I was actually looking something up about. It's actually quite interesting. I don't know. I just think that when you we have the same. We have a lot of clients. They have as much monitoring as they possibly can, but keeping the house kind of profiled and kept. We've had problems in some homes. I've seen some very interesting things where you'll have people come in and do drugs right in your house, and they just destroy everything, and you're just like, holy crap. We've had people literally walk out with everything in the house, right? Even the silverware mats under the silverware trays. Everything in the house. So you have that. Again, that stuff you try and avoid by keeping your rates up, right? And trying to mitigate it. But sometimes you're just like, holy crap, how do I avoid this happening? But I think it really just comes down to setting expectations. I've never heard of a kind of a guest profile meeting. I think that's a brilliant idea, is really trying to mitigate problems before they happen and setting clear expectations for the guests. And we've had to do that a couple times, or we've had to go to guest homes and say, go, right? That you broke the contract, and if you won't go, we'll just have the sheriff come help, right?
Right.
So I think it just comes down, my guess would be it comes down to expectation management, being very clear about the agreement that they've made, and obviously they've agreed to your terms and conditions to make the booking in the first place. So I think mostly it's just expectation management.
Yeah, no, I'll add to that. In the listing, we do in many places put things that just exude the fact that, if you're looking to cause problems or a party or something like that, this is not the place to do it because it's not going to end well. We have removed people from homes. We were just talking about this the other night with the staff. We had to remove a billionaire from one of our homes with a large company everybody would know the name of. So probably not the right decision if we had to do it over again, but there's reasons we had to do that. So anyway, you do what you got to do to protect your your company and your owner's investment.
Yeah. And you guys use Point Central, I feel like, or
We do.
the smart locks where you can. I feel like that's a big one. That was always a big one for us, is the ability to lock people out, or just to have that visibility in there. When it comes to owners actually using their homes, I know you limit, correct, in your contract?
We do, yeah. Yeah, we limit owner stays to no more than 30 days per year. So that's, again, our owners are typically, the investors that don't really need to use the home or want to use it. They just want to maximize the profits. So in our management agreement, we do have a 30-day minimum. If they go over that, then they just have to pay our management fee on whatever the prevailing rate would have been during that time. And then we add that to their statement.
And for homeowners using homes, what in your operations, like how is it different? If the homeowner's coming into the home, is it exactly the same as if a guest is coming into the home?
Oh, hell no. Does everyone agree with me? What is she talking about the same? No, I mean, what happens? Let's ask. I mean, seriously, I want to hear. What happens when a homeowner comes to the home? What's the first thing that happens when they leave? Bingo. 4,312 things. Some of them are just like, I saw a spoon in the fork tray in the silverware drawer. You gotta fix it. Get your shit together, right? I mean, seriously. Am I wrong? What else?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, I saw some dust on the blinds that you have stored in the closet. Nope, gotta fix that. Your cleaning is awful. I mean, it's like every owner will find something to complain about, right? And it probably has to, it's just ridiculous. So it's not the same. In fact, we actually, before homeowners come in, what we've done is we send, usually the general manager, and because inspectors are gonna inspect, but they're gonna inspect to their level of inspection. Anyways, it was like 4 inspects, but it's cool. But here's the thing. So we actually send general managers in before homeowners arrive in their home to double check everything. Like everything, because homeowners, are they the normal guest? Oh, hell no. What they're doing is they're looking for anything that's wrong, anything, because it's their investment. And I mean, rightfully so. They really want to make sure their investment, whether it's a business investment or, hey, I just dropped my entire life savings into this, and this is how I'm going to retire, or this is where I'm going to spend my retirement. They care about their homes, and they should. They're expensive. And they want to make sure they're taken care of. I would attest that probably a majority of the homeowners are more traditional than investment minded, and they just want to make sure their assets being taken care of. And they need to know, when it comes to acquisition, they need to find some way to authentically fill, right? It's emotional. Their buying decision or their decision to work with you is emotional, right? Data helps, but ultimately they're going to make an emotional buy based on who they feel is going to take care of their home the best. And I think that if they can feel that, it helps. But I think that, you have all kinds of a myriad of things that happen when the homeowner's there. They call you in the middle of it. They kind of secret shop you. They test everything. If there's a light bulb out, they're mad about it, right? And so they flick on the light, and the light bulb goes out, and it's your fault somehow. So ultimately, yeah, I think preparing the house before the owner arrives, very specifically preparing the house. Maybe you leave a gift basket to just warm them up a little bit. And then 2, that list of stuff is always coming every time.
And I love that. I mean, I think all of that obviously comes at a cost. But I love Live Manager or Breezeway or any of those tools where you're actually tracking that data so that you can run a report at the end of the year the same way that you're running your revenue reports and say, like, this home made us this much, but it cost us this much. And ultimately, it's worth it to keep in our inventory or it's not. Pat, what about you? What's it like when a homeowner stays in the home? Even though I actually know the answer to this question.
I mean, it generally goes really well. I mean, we do have great owners. If we don't like our owners, we part company with them. So we like all our owners. It just makes life easier. So, I usually call them and say, hey, you're coming in. If you see anything, just let us know about it. I mean, it's going to happen anyway,
Yeah,
right?
get ahead of it, right?
So we try and get ahead of it. Obviously, we go out there, with maintenance and, all of us. I mean, I'll go there as well on occasion and just see what is not right with the home and see if we can get it fixed. They're going to notice things just like any guest, and so we want that feedback to make it better. We do give them a gift. That's just, I think, the appropriate thing to do. They're a client of ours, so we have a nice gift for them at the home when they arrive. And then we'll get them a price on the things that need to be corrected, and maybe there might even be some profit in there for us. So try and turn it into a positive.
Yeah. Do you have criteria for how do you guys make that decision for the homeowners that you have parted ways with? what's that decision look like? How many meetings do you have about the home? What's that process?
So it's usually based on, how the home is performing financially. So, if it's a poorly performing, home, obviously we need to look at getting rid of it. Again, we've had a park company with owners that were fantastic. A lot of them were founding clients that got us going when we were small and had nothing going on, but they're also business people and they understand at some point, they're going to have to go. Many times, I think we've sold about 7 homes last year, from owners that we said, hey, this isn't the market that we want to be in. We're moving away from it. Would you like to sell, and invest in something a little bit higher rate of return? And so sometimes they will, sometimes they'll just get out of it. So that's one of the things, the financial indicator. And then the other is going to be, how much are they micromanaging the process? Are they a real problem for us? Do we just not get along? Do we not see eye to eye? Are we like-minded or not? And so, that's what we'll do. Our agreement has a 60-day clause that we can, part company in 60 days, but then it's also based on when the last reservation takes place. But we have a lot of control, with that. We can obviously stop the calendar. But, we never want to leave an owner in a bad position because it is a big investment. It's a lot of headache to switch management companies. And so, I've told them, hey, if you need 3 months or 4 months, we'll work with you. And so try and make it the most pleasant parting that we can. And it's gone well in every circumstance.
And what are the metrics on that financial decision for you guys? Like, what do they have to perform at in order to stay in your?
So the home would have to do $100,000 a year annually of just gross rental revenue, for us to keep it. If it doesn't, I mean, it's not worth it, for us, as a company to make a decent profit off of it, because whether it's a, small home or a big home, many times the smaller homes are worse because the guests are more critical and what have you. So, that's usually it. We've weeded out, a lot of the lower end products, which for us is, like $100,000 annually. So, we're more looking for the homes that do between $250 and $450 in gross revenue a year. So, those criteria are constantly changing.
Okay.
We also only want to manage a certain amount of homes, which kind of is a niche for us, and investors seem to really like that. It's not for us a race to be the biggest. It's a race to be the most profitable. So we want to be at 75 homes, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Sedona. And I think that's a good place to be, and we'll see where it goes from there.
And I liked how you talked about most of your homeowners are investors, but you treat this as like a stock portfolio for them. Can you talk a little bit about like what you're providing to them, how regularly?
Yeah, we'll share the data that we have. Obviously, I many times feel bad for the owners because they're such in the dark. They have no idea like what's going on. I can't price my homes. Is it going to be booked? Is it not going to be booked? Generally that, wears off after a while when they realize that every single week we get it booked somehow. And I have nerves of steel. So it's rare that a weekend goes by that our homes aren't all booked. So, the stock portfolio is just a measurement of how, it compares to the market and how it compares year over year. Analytics, is this investment doing better for you this year than it was last year? Sometimes even include the equity gain. That's one that in our market's been really good. It's hard to track because that could tank at any moment, but we don't focus on that. We just focus more on the rental revenue and occupancy, and really their costs too, because what they're asking us to do is run a business for them. So we got to make sure the costs are controlled, and we got to make sure the revenue's high. So if those things are working, we want to show them that, and even if it's not working, we show them that and what we need to do to change it if it's not working. So, they appreciate that. We do it maybe every 3 months or so. It's not on a schedule, but it's just like, hey, this is kind of time to show them how it's performing.
I wanted to talk a little bit too about comps. So like when you're doing pro formas, how are you finding comps in your inventory? For you guys, Ben, are you like in that marketing process? What's the comp process look like for Pat or Ben? Or
Pat, I'll let you take more of the comp portion because
the comp portion we use existing inventory because we've been really fortunate to be the highest price in the market. I figured somebody's got to be the highest price, it might as well be us. So we'll use our other products that are nearby and say, okay, this is what this one's performed at, and it's very similar in bedroom count, bathroom count, square footage, amenities, features of the house, and so we'll share that with a new owner to say this is what this home looks like, and we can even take them there and say, hey, this is exactly what this house is, and this is what it's produced for the last 2 years, and then we'll share with them monthly what it will do. So that's usually how they get a good idea of how theirs is going to perform.
Yeah, I think showing that on that particular landing page you have for your acquisition, kind of what your minimum kind of nightly rate would be for some of that inventory, just understanding where their homes would benchmark in comparison to your current inventory, if they would already be in good fit. So maybe even self-vetting themselves a little bit as well. And with our clients, we try to focus based on their nightly rate. If they do provide that to us, we have access to be able to do that. What markets or content creation or services are we going to be providing for them that's going to get them the traveler that wants to stay with them? So are they more high-end and luxury? Should we focus all of our efforts on that type of aesthetic and branding versus going more boots on the ground marketing where it might be filling more of those cabin type rentals instead?
Tyler, with the kind of the focus on dynamic pricing and a lot of the tools that people are implementing, how has that changed the conversation with owners around rate and occupancy?
Yeah, so it's like what me and Pat were talking about earlier, is that first of all, they need to know that you have tools and assets that can help them. And they need to understand, on some levels, it can be part of your pitch or your presentation, just kind of explaining how you're going to price their home. Because with some of these tools, you can set, hey, if you're booking 2 years out, we're going to increase the rate. As we get closer, we might step it down or step it up based upon kind of the seasonality, right? I mean, a lot of times I prefer stepping it up, right, than stepping it down. But yeah, right, and helping them understand ADR and how that, and RevPAR, right, or RevPAR in hotel language, is understanding how sometimes lowering the price or hiring the price will definitely affect occupancy. And sometimes I think owners, I think there's, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I feel like sometimes owners, they just don't take a minute to look at what's really happening. They just said, my home's not full and I'm upset about it, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not taking the time to understand that, that you may increase the revenue of their home by 20% and take less bookings by jacking their rate up. I mean, what's the old phrase? The whole old hotel phrase is what, right? If you're full, you're not charging enough, right? And that's kind of an interesting way to look at it, because ultimately, generally hotels shoot for 60 to 75% occupancy, right? I'm not saying that we should do that, but right, you can reduce wear and tear on home, less work for the managers, less cleaning for the cleaning crews by increasing the rate slightly. But if they understand, that really all dials back to RevPAR, right? And if they understand revenue per unit and how you can increase that and get a higher ADR possibly, that can be very, very helpful. So I think the conversation really revolves around the fact that you're making data-driven decisions again, and there's tools in the market that they understand that you're paying a lot of money for, right? When you're paying a software provider X and you're paying a revenue management tool XXX, right? They understand that you're sacrificing for ultimately making more money for yourself and for them. So I think that them understanding you have the tool can change the entire conversation, but ultimately proving out that once you have increased the ADR and maybe lowered occupancy or increased occupancy at the same time, they kind of start realizing, hey, these guys might know what they're talking about.
I just realized we're really close on time, but we have some very specialized knowledge with subject matter experts. So I just wanted to see, before we wrap up, if there's any specific questions for anyone up on stage. Yeah.
My question is for Pat. I really like when you were talking about kind of the pre-qualifying your owners, having the minimum home value as one of those requirements. What other requirements do you look at in determining if someone's going to be a good fit before you look at onboarding them?
I think it's more the feeling that we get, are we going to get along? I don't know if there's any real benchmarks that we can, look at. We don't do any sort of personality tests. I know that's been talked about, but I think I've been around long enough that I don't need the personality test, but sometimes I can be wrong. So, it's just spending some time with them. We do search them out, on social media and some other channels just to see, where they've been. Are they, we check out court records to see, are they litigious? Is it going to be a problem, with these people? So, we do try and see who we're getting into business with. And if there's something that comes up that just doesn't feel right, we'll typically decline it. We had a home recently. I mean, it was a beautiful home in our market, $4 million, and it was the wrong owner, and so we had to pass on it. And so, but it was going to be a problem if we took this owner on. So sometimes you just gotta move on.
You had mentioned that the time that it takes you to get the homes online is generally between 30 and 45 days. Have you seen any sort of delays and setbacks with furnishing and ordering furniture and what that looks like?
It's all in Long Beach, still in the ocean, right?
Right, yeah. Our designer's been doing what she does, for many years. I've worked with her for 20 years, and so she has great sourcing, but more recently than not, she's been having some problems with it. But, we just got to make other decisions on other products. I mean, if there's something we love that we want to use, it's not available for 6 months, we just got to choose something else.
Yeah.
We never want to hold up, getting the business, the home launched, by waiting on a couch. So we just got to make some decisions and move on. But it is becoming more difficult. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about how would you guys approach Vacasa? How do you approach that and their model? Just curiosity on that one.
Run? No? What do you mean? Are you meaning if they come and try and buy you, or if they're?
Obviously, if they're shopping you, they're probably shopping them. There's a good chance of it in most markets. That's what's happening. So how do you? And they're good at it, right? I mean, they're good at acquisition. So how do you, as a local property manager, I know what we do, but what do you
Show them the Better Business Bureau reviews. Am I wrong? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, no, he's right. I mean, we don't have any concern about Vacasa. In many ways, we don't have any competition in our market because nobody is doing the business the way we're doing it. Nobody can, has the data that we have, the staff that we have. It's just, we get asked that a lot, like, how are you different? And so there's just many indicators of how we're different, why we're different, and I usually supply those to them. And we're not looking for everybody. Vacasa's looking for anybody and everybody. I mean, we're not. So.
Pat, do you feel like the takeaway helps, though? The fact that you can walk away from anybody helps them kind of almost desire you a little more?
Oh, yeah.
And that might be part of it, right? I mean, obviously, it's always a conversation of what you versus them, right? I mean, and I don't know if it's Vacasa people here, sorry, but they have a horrible reputation for keeping houses clean. They mess up reservations like crazy. They put people in homes where there's already people in homes. They get there and the home's not even cleaned, and just on and on and on. And there's about a zillion reviews on the internet about Vacasa's model and how it doesn't work. Now, again, that's kind of a shrewd way to deal with it, but I think it just becomes. I mean, because they're renting out houses for 20%, 15% in places because they're looking at a bulk model. I know what Vacasa's about. They're just trying to acquire. I mean, they took $400 million, right? $400 million of capital from investment firms. What are they doing? They're just trying to set themselves up to be sold, right? And that's their model. They don't care. And I'm being really blunt here, maybe more blunt than I should be, but I just don't think that they really care about the guest or the homeowner. They're just trying to build a company as big and fast as they possibly can to be able to prepare it for a sell or possibly an IPO. But ultimately, what I think is when you're in the day-to-day battle, which is what really matters, and you're really trying to figure out how to get a homeowner and not let your homeowner go to Vacasa for a matter of 2%, it's just an understanding of who you are, that you really care, that you authentically will take care of their home, and really try and show that you understand them, that you can be trusted, you're not a conglomerate, and that you might be more mom and popish, but that ultimately lends to a better story and a better opportunity to work with you.
Sean, I am curious how you respond
Exactly
to it.
that.
Okay.
We go with the mom and pop thing, and with the technology edge. I mean, that's
Yeah.
our marketing.
That's brilliant.
That's our client acquisition right there. Is that we're the and to be trusted, right? I agree with that. But I certainly don't like to bad talk my competitors either.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, that's a strategy, right?
I don't think that's a good approach.
I don't either.
Trying to meet somebody and sell who you are.
Right.
But it's real, right? I mean, they're good at it, and they will come in and they're slick, and a lot of people, a lot of regular clients, regular cabin owners like we have, they don't pick up on that. They don't pick up on the difference between the two.
It's just reminding them like you would with any other competitor in your area, not talking bad about those local competitors, but viewing Vacasa just like that, where you have to remind your owners of what makes you different and why they chose you in the first place. And it always goes back to personalized service or 24-hour maintenance, which I know some of our clients have, or local knowledge. A lot of that is going to help the guests too and retain them as well.
Yeah, he's dead on. I agree. It sounds like that's what you're doing anyways. Your best, I mean, they're going to come to you eventually. I mean, an experience with a Casa will probably push them to you eventually anyways. And I'm being really honest about that, but helping them to understand who you are. And I think that most, where are you located?
We're Central Washington.
Okay, so that probably pushes people to, right, people in that area are probably more interested in kind of someone who's going to take personalized care of their property, and I think that that's where you, if you highlight that, and testimonials and that kind of thing, gather that stuff up, show your reviews, I think will help you to really, and honestly, that might create the delta from understanding where you're at. They might go looking for that other stuff in other places for the other managers, saying, well, what is their review on Better Business Bureau? So you highlight where you're great and they're maybe not, without having to trash your competitor. You say, hey, we're A+ rated on Better Business Bureau. We have a 4.8 star on VRBO. Here's 84 testimonials on Google Places. Here's where we're at. And building a really good online reputation management generally pushes them. And if you talk about those things, they're going to go and look at what everybody else's are too. And if you're winning, that's going to be a really, online reputation management will be a big part of that.
And to support that, we've had some customers, some property manager customers, they were acquired by Vacasa, but kind of in the early phases of acquisition, their non-compete ended, and the homeowners are just coming right back to them. And I mean, right now, if you look at Vacasa's new inventory, 75% is organic acquisition, 25% is property manager acquisition. So even though we hear about property management acquisition, they really do have a good ground force, but it's just not sustainable. I think what you say, like, just stay true to your
Yep.
fundamentals. Sound like Patrick here, who cares for the house, and like that's who you want to deal with. Get involved with the local community, and they can't beat you at that. Or so far they haven't. Even with all the capital to put together the slick presentations, those homeowners will be back.
Yeah. And I agree, not bad talking to your competitors.
Agreed.
With the only exception being Vacasa. I think in our market we have an obligation to, because they're the ones that are the bad operators or the bad apples that's causing neighbor frustration. They're not answering their phones, they're not managing properly. So, I don't want somebody going with them because of what it could do to our local, market with short-term rentals. So I have no problem.
People,
telling
yeah, a
exactly
lot,
who they are.
Pat's right. Yeah, people are regulating because of Vacasa. A lot of regulation comes because of Vacasa,
Right.
and it's really sad.
Yeah.
In places that never had regulation, and then you in small towns like McCall, Idaho, 2 hours up the road, there's always been these small mom and pop shops, and Vacasa rolls into town and they just trash the market.
Right.
And now you have city council saying, hey, this is consistently a bad problem, and there's nobody on the ground to deal with it.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
Not sorry.
Into what I was. But
so what are some of the ways that you guys encourage good neighborhood, like being good neighbors, like in your owner acquisition? Because that's some of our a lot of our homeowners are looking to move into their home, and when they want to move in, they don't want their neighbors to hate them. So like, we've had to like increase like nightly minimums in certain neighborhoods because the neighbors were complaining so much. Like, what are some strategies that you guys can offer for being a good neighbor when you're selling to your homeowners?
I think keeping the guest count low, and our market is kind of a myth that, the more, beds you have, the higher the revenue is going to be. That's just not true. So keeping the guest counts lower is important to us. It's easier to manage, if you got, a home that's $700 a night, but it can fit 16 people, the type of people that are coming there, isn't probably what we want, and so, and I also think you can sell more homes if the guest counts were regulated. I'd like regulation to come in our town that would regulate the number of people that can be in a house. Because if you have 16 to one house, but it's required to be 8, that means you're going to sell them 2 different properties. I think that's better for everybody to do that. So I think just lower guest counts is really where we focus on. Obviously, being responsive to the neighbors. Obviously reaching out to the guests before they arrive, profiling them, to try and mitigate problems that could occur. But it's going to happen, and we just try and deal with it quickly, and make make sure the guests, are on best behavior when they're there.
So I've been on a legal affairs board for the VRMA, say some 10 years ago, and the FVRMA, where it just never ends in Florida, right? Where are you from?
Oregon.
Okay. So ultimately, one of the things that we saw work was literally create a good neighbor policy for your company, and that entails some different things. Noise. Right? He talked about some smart home technology will help that, making the guest aware of what you have and saying, look, if your noise is 109 decibels, we got to talk. The other thing is expectation management with your neighbors. And going and literally visiting, I had a friend who tried this out in Salt Lake City, and it worked really well, where he would go to the neighbors, tell them what their good neighbor policy was, leave them a document or two, and saying, look, if there's a problem, call me, call us first. And if you're frustrated about something, let's talk about it, because you might be able to say, yeah, I actually understand what you're talking about. We're going to maybe make some adjustments to fix that, whether it's noise, cars, how many cars being parked, right? Those are usually the big issues. How many bookings, and helping them to understand how you say, look, we're doing this one way or the other. I would just you might still hate it, but if not, come to us first before you go to the police or the county and file a complaint or something to that extent. Does that make sense? Try and work with the neighbors as much as you possibly can to come to you and to work with you first.
I really like too, Pat, what you got. You have the Ring doorbells on every house. I think that's a really good idea because you're seeing that they are who they said they were in their
That's true,
booking
yeah.
process.
And we'll put them on the side of the house many times, not to view anything, but just to have that audible that you can hear around back. We also don't allow speakers in any of our homes. We don't supply them. We've disconnected sound systems. It's unfortunate, but some people just don't know how to keep it down. So, it's one of the things we could control is, all right, let's just take the speaker out. We never get complaints over it, or, doesn't affect revenue, doesn't affect occupancy, so it's a non-issue.
And to your point, me as being a traveler, I've seen documents inside vacation rental homes that are saying specifically what the rules are, what the neighborhood rules are, how can I be a good neighbor to people who live in the area, because you don't want to be that person that causes a mess or a ruckus in the neighborhood either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We also have done something new where we will threaten them that they can be removed from the Airbnb or VRBO platform, and that usually resonates with them because, they want to travel that way for future trips. Because they will, if the guest is bad enough, they will take you off the platform indefinitely.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And the rating system, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can, one of the things I love about Airbnb is that, and we as LiveRest, when we were the first to integrate with Airbnb in 2011 or something to that extent. I remember having the conversation about how you can rate the guests can rate you, and that Uber has been doing that too, and I think it's really valuable to saying, look, you're right. Not only can we remove you, but we're going to give you a bad guest rating, so nobody will book you, right? Book with you, so
Right.
I know we're wrapping up on time, but hopefully they can stick around for a minute if anybody else has specific questions. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I think we're all done here, but Ben, Tyler, Andrew, Pat, thank you. And yeah, super valuable.
Thank you.